In this episode of Mounted Branch, we meet the unit's two newest equine recruits. And after a long and challenging day for the horses, an alcohol-fueled crowd puts the team's public order training to the test.
Watch your backs! Yes, move it!
To keep pace with the rigorous demands of policing such a large city, the Greater Manchester Police Mounted Unit needs a constant stream of new officers and horses. They'll be expected to ride into some of the most challenging situations that face a modern police force. The responsibility for ensuring that both horses and officers will be up to the job rests with the unit's trainers, Howard Tinsley and Claire Hamer. Before they're let loose on even the most simple patrols, new officers have to undergo an intensive 16-week riding course. New horses are known as remounts because before joining the unit they will have led a very different life. Their training takes a minimum of 6 months. There are currently 2 remounts undergoing basic police training. 10-year-old Eli is a dapple grey Irish draft breed and has been assigned to trainer Claire.
He's been with us just under 5 months now, and he's superb little horse on the roads. At the moment, he's having just a few problems with street furniture. He just needs to overcome his fear of rubbish as well, moving around on the floor. Get off. But we're getting there, but what we have to remember is that because he's so good in the traffic, that could turn into a bit of disregard for his own safety. If he does see something spooky on his left and he moves out into the traffic, that could be quite a worrying stage. But we're really still assessing him. We're trying to encourage all the officers to come out with us and see what they think as well, because at the end of the day, they're the people riding these horses.
Ideally, new equine recruits are aged between 6 and 10 years. They have to be over 16 2 hands high, that's 5'5", and be of a very solid build. Because of the amount of road work in the job, it's essential they have sound legs and feet, and most importantly, they not only have to be brave, but calm and good-natured as well.
This little guy, you know, he will be, if he does come through, he will be a superb horse for training on as well. He's fairly steady in the school, and you know, he's got a lot of qualities to like. He's very, very good in his stable. Stable management, stable manners are excellent, and he is a good all-round horse. Obviously, I've got the perception of a civilian rider, a horse owner myself at home, and I wouldn't have any qualms about taking him home with me tomorrow. He's great fun.
The unit have been deployed to an area called Saddleworth. It's right on the edge of their patch where Greater Manchester meets the Peak District. They've come to police an event which, sadly, in the past has been known to end in trouble.
It is going to be very tight. It's an extremely narrow street, as most of you are aware. So just be mindful of your health and safety, that of your horses, and also the safety of members of the public. We're essentially here to make sure that everybody's safe. It's a nice day. You know, 99% of the people here are out for a good time, out for a few beers and out to enjoy themselves. It's more likely to become a spontaneous public order incident later on. Fuelled with the excessive alcohol consumption, it could be quite a challenging evening.
So, in addition to the alcohol-fuelled crowd, just what is it that makes today, for the horses, one of the most challenging events in the calendar? That's right, brass bands. 59 of them to be exact, for today is the annual Whit Friday Brass Band Contest. And for the next 6 hours, the horses must escort them as they parade up and down the High Street in Upper Mill Village. What makes it so challenging is that as far as the horses are concerned, and possibly 1 or 2 members of the crowd, it's just a very loud noise, which in the wild they would associate with the threat of danger. Every instinct is telling them to turn and face that threat, or just make a run for it, which is exactly what an ordinary horse would do. It's only their training and strength of character that allows them to override their instincts and get on with the job. Sergeant Charlie Applin, who has been a mounted officer for 7 years, is riding a horse that, on certain jobs, can be a bit of hard work. But on days like today, he's the ideal mount.
This is Snodgrass. He takes everything as a marathon, this horse, rather than a sprint. Needs a lot of encouragement to get going, but when you've got a band behind you, it's the type of horse that you want to be sat on. Nothing seems to faze him. We've been out now just over an hour. A couple of horses at first were a little bit on the toes, but they seem to settle down a bit now. And I'm getting nice and warm using my legs on this fella.
For one horse in particular, today will be especially challenging. Paddy is the unit's other new recruit, who's one step ahead of Eli on the training ladder. If he can cope with today, then he can cope with anything. The man responsible for getting him through it is his trainer, Howard.
At this stage, we're doing things at the halt. As you can see, we're stood here listening to them. Hopefully, in sort of an hour or so's time, after we've had a break, then I'll take him down and have him working on the move, possibly behind the bands if we can, and then see how he reacts to that, because he finds it easier and less distraction if he's on the move. So he's got me to think and concentrate on, as opposed to the things that are going on around him.
Whilst Paddy might be here as part of his training, for the other horses, there's a real job to do.
But we're here basically to make sure that the road stays clear more than anything. But then, you know, as it goes through the rest of the evening, should it start to get a little bit heated, then that's when we would intervene. It tends to be teenagers more than anything. Fueled by a lot of alcohol during the day, tends to take a bit of a turn for the worse occasionally. But we'll see.
At Hough End, the unit's base, the stable block is undergoing a major refurbishment, and so the horses are camping out in the indoor riding school. And whilst it may be a novelty for them, for everyone else, the restricted space and lack of automatic waterers means a lot of extra work. 175 water buckets need to be filled every day, and grooming has to be done wherever there's a free spot. Although the grooms have many shared duties, they are each made responsible for the welfare of two specific horses. Inevitably, they develop a very strong bond with these horses and know them better than anyone else. John Richardson has been looking after Dombey for over 14 years.
We've been together that long, we're like an old married couple, aren't we, mate? Yeah. Good lad.
Sean Mansley has been a police groom for 10 years and knows as well as anyone the hard work involved in ensuring that 35 horses are ready for duty.
All the grooms do shift work, so at the minute I'm on an early shift, so I start at 6:30 this morning. And basically muck all the horses out, feed them, give them the hay nets, exercise any. That means riding them or lunging them, put them in the horse walker, groom them, get ready for patrols, things like that. Just general day-to-day running of the place, really.
But Sian's workload is made all the more difficult because she's been allocated Cicero, one of the 7 grey horses on the yard.
Yes, we do dread having them, really, because they are a challenge to keep clean. The supervisors tend to only give the grooms 1 grey each, because if you had 2 greys, it'd be too much hard work, really. This morning, he was actually clean for him. Normally, he's filthy, and it's a full bath.
And to top it all off, Cicero is quite a stubborn character.
Don't get angry with him. If you get angry with him, that's it, it's game over. It's just a battle. If you want to have an argument with him, he will argue back and he will probably win. You'll end up losing. He's so cheeky like that, aren't you? I mean, he might have been gelded late, you never know, because sometimes if they've been gelded late, we do tend to keep the stallion traits.
And to clarify what gelding is, let's just say he's not the man he used to be. Male horses are often gelded, as it generally makes them better behaved and easier to control.
OK, good lad.
The grooms' work's really important because they have to be vigilant with the care of the horses. They are the first point of call if anything's wrong with the horse. They'll notice any slight lumps or bumps or heat or swelling, or if the horse is just a little bit off colour or just not feeling himself. So it's really important that they are vigilant in their role. They take great pride in their work and they turn the horses out to a very high standard. They like them to leave the premises looking as smart as they can do. They get very attached to the horses and they care very passionately about them, and I think that can only enhance their role really, because they then take more care. You know, a lot of them look after them just as well as they would their own horses. So their role is really critical to the organisation.
All right, smart now. Yes.
The challenge of policing the annual Saddle with Band contest with the friendly but claustrophobic crowds and the incessant loud noise with all its bangs and crashes is proving easier for some of the horses to cope with than others. PC Keith Eddersbury has recently been assigned a new horse, Saxby, and so today is very much a case of getting to know each other.
It's going really well. The crowd seem to be enjoying it. They appreciate the horses, and he's brilliant. Better than I had hoped for. A lot of people here say, like, look at the dancing horses because they think they're dancing to the band, but they're just spooked by them, aren't they?
PC Shane Wilson has only been paired with his horse Weller for a month. Weller is a 15-year-old Irish draft cross thoroughbred and has been with the unit for 12 years. Although experienced, he still finds these situations a little more intimidating than some of the other horses.
He's been fine. He dances a little bit on the spot, but he's safe. He's not going anywhere, which is the main thing, really, when you've got the amount of people that are down there. So he's supposed to be hard as nails.
And whilst the horses might not be dancing, other members of the unit are finding it hard to resist.
Alistair, I know this one. There's something for everyone at this band contest.
Having coped with the event from a safe distance, trainer Howard Tinsley thinks it's time to step up the challenge for new recruit Paddy. The big question now is, will he be capable of parading with the bands?
He wasn't quite sure at the beginning, but when actually went up for his maiden voyage behind the bands, it was absolutely great. No problems at all. A little bit on his toes to start with. There's like a nervous tension. Some horses throw their heads up and down just to try and alleviate what's going on around them. You know, for instance, when you bite our nails, well, it's the same sort of scenario with a horse. They're a little bit nervous. They find something to do just to sort of take away and alleviate a little bit of the tension. But then obviously he settled down quite happily, listened to me, and he went no problem at all.
As darkness falls and Paddy heads back to the unit one step closer to being a police horse, work continues for the rest of the team. They hope that the good humour of the high-spirited crowd doesn't turn ugly. But the experienced officers are detecting a distinct change in mood as things are about to take a turn for the worse.
Watch your back! Six! Move back! Right! Right! Watch your back! Move it!
And European races on Dubai Racing.
patrol in the suburban B division, PC Fiona Calding of the Greater Manchester Police Mounted Unit is enjoying one of her first days as a fully qualified mounted officer. Although she has 8 years' experience in the police, Fiona has only just completed her mounted unit training.
Since joining the mounted unit, it's been wonderful. Before this, I was working in the child protection side, so that was very different to this. There was a lot of different stresses and things involved in that job. This is just everything I thought it was going to be. It's something I've always wanted to do, so I'm really lucky.
Fiona had the most riding experience of all the new recruits on her course, which, although not essential, definitely came in handy.
Canter on.
The training is very good, the training staff are very good. If you've got any problems or issues, they're there to help you. And so although it was good for me because I maybe didn't have to do as much revision or work as hard on getting my riding up to scratch, it was still something that I had to go through.
Just walk, Fiona, well done, give him a pat.
Fiona has yet to be assigned her own horse, and so today she's borrowing Fairfax, known around the stables as Jimmy.
Fairfax's character is quite cheeky. When I was on my riding course, I rode him quite a lot actually, and I really enjoyed riding him in the school. Out on the road, sometimes with big wagons and things, he gets a little bit on his toes and jogs a bit, but he never does anything really nastily. He's, you know, you trust him.
Whilst in many parts of the country the sight of police horses regularly patrolling urban and inner city areas would be highly unusual, here in Manchester the mounted unit are being used more and more. As Fiona will discover, these regular patrols are anything but routine. Today she's investigating a burglary with PC Mike Leach, but mounted officers can be involved in all aspects of modern policing, from cracking down on illegal drugs to working to prevent vice.
When we come to scenes of burglaries or when we're dealing with incidents, depending on what horses you've got and depending on the surroundings, if you've got somewhere to put the horses out of the way of pedestrians or cars or any other obstacles, will depend on whether you stay on the horses or get off. Because Harrison is a younger horse, I've got off so that there's more control really. If I was on Fairfax and he suddenly pulled away, he could pull me off or I might lose my grip of him. Here, although I might not look as though I've got more control, I have.
It's really messy inside. They've made a really untidy search. They've been in all the rooms, they've broken a couple of doors and pulled stuff out of wardrobes and just thrown it about all over the floor.
With details of the burglary taken and a forensic specialist booked to come round, it's time for Fiona and Mike to continue their patrol. But at over 16 two hands high, that's 5'5", it's not always easy getting back on a police horse.
I'll probably fall off now. Oh, don't eat the bushes, James. That's a rose bush, get off.
It's feeding time at the stables, which means it's all hands to the pump, with the grooms being assisted by any officers on duty. This at least twice daily event is greeted with great excitement by the horses. Wild horses will graze for 16 hours a day, but because the horses at the unit are unable to trickle feed in this way, they are fed a concentrated mix of hard feed to provide them with enough energy for pounding the beat. Each horse's nutritional requirement varies depending on their workload, fitness level and the time of year. To ensure that they're not over or underfed, their diets are carefully monitored. Fibre is vital for healthy gut function, and so as well as their hard feed, the horses also munch their way through 4 hay nets a day, filled with a mixture of hay and the slightly more nutritious, moisture-rich haylage. Horses have a natural desire to chew, and so having the hay nets around stops them getting bored when they're in the stables.
If it were just, say, put in a corner and shook up, or put in a manger, for example, they would absolutely dive in it, do less chewing and a lot more swallowing. So what we tend to do is put a net of hay in, or haylage. It takes them a lot longer to eat it, which is good for the horse's gut, and it also keeps them very, very happy for a lot longer.
And of course, what goes in must come out. The unit's horses produce 12 tonnes of waste in droppings and bedding each week. The 35 stables are mucked out first thing every morning and skipped out regularly to ensure that the horses always have a clean bed to take some well-earned rest. 10 officers and horses have been deployed to Saddleworth on the edge of their patch where Greater Manchester meets the Peak District. They've been policing the annual Whit Friday Brass Band Contest, and so far the jovial nature of the crowd has meant that the day has passed off uneventfully. As pub closing time approaches, the police are hoping that their high-profile presence will encourage the spirited crowd to make their way home peacefully.
Good night now. Yeah, get towards the bus stop.
It's a crucial time for the officers and horses of the mounted unit, as they need to be ready to put their public order skills into action should it all turn nasty. With the crowd reluctant to leave, the team decide to make a coordinated sweep of the high street, using the horses to move them along.
Right, lads, come on, I've asked you once already, I'm now telling you. Can you go home, please?
Size is a definite advantage in situations like this, as these formidable animals make their sheer physical presence felt.
We were trying to adopt a line technique where we cleared the crowd, which works effectively, but also being sensitive to the dangers for the horses. The problem being that on that occasion there was a lot of street furniture, barriers, changes in the paving, steps, which horses we can't go up. So we had to be mindful of the kind of surface area, and also the glass. There's a lot of broken glass on the floor, which is harmful to the horses. But yeah, that is one of the most effective ways of dealing with a crowd and dispersing them.
But the progress of this tactic is halted when a young male starts a fight with Caroline's horse.
Somebody's been arrested for punching Steerforth in the face. The foot officer managed to detain the gentleman. He's been arrested for animal cruelty. I think he's okay though. No cuts or bruises.
It's not uncommon for a small incident to act as a flashpoint in a crowd like this, with people buoyed up by the effects of alcohol, only too keen to start an affray. But the officers and horses continually train to cope with and diffuse situations just such as these. With an incident occurring, the horses immediately move in. The mounted unit contain the situation and make it nigh on impossible for anyone who might have a misguided notion of joining in.
Everybody's worked really hard. It is a challenging evening for the horses and the riders, with the bands and with the traffic and with the noise and with the public order which you've just witnessed. So, but all in all, yeah, generally very, very successful operation really this evening, yeah.
With the troublemakers dealt with, the unit can now continue with ensuring that the late-night revellers make their way home safely. The male arrested for punching Steerforth in the face was charged with animal cruelty and received a caution. And after a thorough assessment back at the unit, Steerforth was found to be unharmed and certified fit for duty for his next shift. Next time on Mounted Branch, the unit are drafted in to police one of the biggest demonstrations of the year. And the officers make their presence felt on a night patrol of the city centre.
If you carry on, I will arrest you.